Following discussion about Roe v. Wade 1973 and related topics is intended for informational and educational purposes only. Please be advised that this discussion may include content that some listeners find emotionally charged or controversial. Listener discretion is advised. It's FCLE Seminar Time, the Florida Civic Literacy Exam Podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Musto. Today we're going to talk about Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that sparked decades of debate, set a precedent for privacy rights, and remains one of the most consequential rulings in U.S. history still to today. Landmark Supreme Court Case Number 16, Roe v. Wade, 1973. Case background. In 1970, a woman using the pseudonym Jane Roe sued Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, Texas. Why? See, Jane Roe challenged a Texas law that made abortion illegal, except under the circumstances where a doctor deemed it necessary to save a woman's life. Now, this isn't just about Texas. Other states had similar laws about this very sensitive issue. Now, here's a phrase to think about, quote, unconstitutionally vague. See, Roe argued that these laws were unconstitutionally vague and violated her right to personal privacy. Let's consider what the Supreme Court of 1973 had to decide. According to oyas.org, the central question before the court was this: does the Constitution recognize a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy by abortion? This wasn't a simple question, and the arguments on both sides were complex and deeply felt. The court's decision. The Supreme Court, in a 7-2 decision, ruled in favor of Jane Roe. The majority opinion, written by Justice Harry Blackmun, was a landmark in itself. First, let's talk about the complexity. See, the court concluded that the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause, which guarantees a right to privacy, was broad enough to protect a woman's decision to terminate or not terminate her pregnancy by abortion. And there was another factor, a factor of balancing this 14th Amendment Due Process Clause right to privacy with the government's interest in protecting both the woman's health and what the court termed the potentiality of human life. In essence, the court at that time established a trimester framework. Oh, yeah, I told you it was complicated, very complicated indeed. The constitutional principle. The court focused on the 14th Amendment. Why? Because of the right to privacy inherent in the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. Now, remember, the 14th Amendment states this, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, end quote. You know what? You're doing really great. Thank you for listening. Hey, I encourage you to learn more about the details of this case and all the other cases too at the Constitution Annotated at constitution.congress.gov. Let's review. Key takeaways from Roe v. Wade. Number 1, constitutional right to privacy. The 1973 Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade ruled that the right to privacy under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment is broad enough and extends to a woman's decision to terminate her pregnancy by abortion. This right, however, is not absolute and must be balanced. Number 2, the factor of balancing. The 14th Amendment Due Process Clause right to privacy is, like I said, not absolute. Its principles were balanced with the government's interest in protecting both women's health and what the court termed the potentiality of human life. meaning the court at the time established a trimester framework. Number 3, impact on state laws. The court's decision changed the scope of states' interference in privacy rights, meaning this: Roe versus Wade remains highly controversial in the states and in the nation today. Thank you for listening to this episode of FCLE Seminar Podcast. We really hope today's discussion has inspired you to think critically about civic engagement. As always, we're grateful for this podcast, and we're even more grateful for you, our listeners, who've made this civic journey possible. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and share this episode with your friends or colleagues who might find it valuable. If you have any questions or want to continue the conversation, reach out to us at fcleseminar.com. You can join our mailing list. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep making a difference. This is your host, Mercedes Musto, signing off.